So we're now 15 games into the season, the league table's slowly starting to shape up, so welcome back to another episode of our weekly score predictions. As always, all this weekend's games will be in the description down below so that you guys can go ahead and make your score predictions, and if you do manage to get any of them right, your comment will be included next time. And before we do hop into anything, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. Over on the OneFootball app, you can go ahead and preview some of the games which are taking place this weekend, and we do have some big ones this weekend. Forest against Derby as the early kick-off on Saturday is going to be a really tasty match. Interested to see which way you guys are going for that one. But like I said, OneFootball, really cool football app. I'll leave a link in the top line of the description down below. I'd highly recommend it. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop into my score predictions. So we're starting things out with the big one going on this weekend. Nottingham Forest going up against Derby County. Now, this one should be a feisty match. Obviously, these two sides have already met this season in the League Cup, where Forest walked away with a 3-0 victory, although both teams pretty much put out their second team, so we can't really read too much into that. What we can read into is how both sides are currently doing. Forest sitting in the top 6 and Derby probably having their worst start to a season in quite a while, actually. But despite their contrasting seasons, if Derby win this game, they'll only be 1 point behind Forest, and that just shows how mental and close the Championship is at the moment. I know that Forest do have a game in hand, but even so, quite a bizarre stat. Derby, I think, is slowly starting to pick their way up. I thought they looked good at the weekend, albeit against a pretty poor Middlesbrough side. Tom Lawrence looked really good in that game. He'll be looking to get back to his best and put behind all the controversy that's followed him so far this season. But Derby's away record is something you can't really look past. They've not won on the road since the opening day of the season against Huddersfield, and that's got to play into Forest's hands, who have looked so strong at the City ground for the majority of the season so far. Forest, I liked their performance last time up against Luton Town. Lewis Grobbins scored a really good goal in that one. I have a feeling that Derby are going to come here and look to play for the point. I think they'd be happy to get a point out of this one. Forest are going to push them, and it's just a question of if they do have that quality to open them up. You know, Derby are starting to look a little bit better. Shinnie and Bielik in midfield, I think, is a nice little midfield combo. But for a prediction, I think I am going to back Forest. I'm going to say 2-1 to the home side. FIFA saying 1-0 Derby. It'll be an interesting one to watch out for. And then to the bottom of the table, where we've got one of the biggest crunch matches going on this weekend at Oakwell between Barnsley and Stoke. Now, if either side was to lose this game, that would really leave them in a bit of a perilous position. Cut adrift at the bottom of the table. I think it's a must win though, because they both need to make up so much ground on the teams above them. Barnsley at Oakwell and as a whole, I think, are starting to score a few more goals now. They've scored 9 goals in their last 6 matches, although are still yet without a win since the opening day of the season. Contrast that to Stoke, who are struggling a little bit more in front of goal. They've only scored 4 in their last 6, although saying that, Stoke have picked up more points than Barnsley lately due to the fact that Barnsley have been drawing way too many. So this is the sort of game where Barnsley really need to kill this one off at home. But I do think Barnsley have been a little bit unlucky in some games not to get all 3 points. Both sides are obviously still without a manager. It's looking like Stoke at the moment are going after O'Neill, the Northern Ireland manager, but whether that'll come off, it's yet to be seen. For a prediction, I'm going to back Barnsley now. I'm going to say 2-1 Barnsley. FIFA saying 2-0 Stoke. Neither side can afford to lose that. After that, we got Birmingham going up against Fulham. Now, Birmingham at St Andrews have been really good there lately. A really consistent run. They've won their last 3 matches. Going up against a Fulham side who I've not been all too convinced by lately. Still been scoring a lot of goals, but can't really defend. Their last game was really caught a lot of people by surprise, losing 3-0 at home against Hull City. They'll be looking to put that behind them as soon as possible, but an away trip to St Andrews isn't really the ideal follow-up to that. In that game against Hull, I thought that defensively they were looking quite shoddy, and I actually think that Hull played in quite a similar way to what Birmingham will look to play in this game. I expect Fulham to have about 80% possession or something like that, but at times they can just be a little bit too slow, and holding on for the ball for so long doesn't really suit the pacey wide players that they have in that side, and then Mitrovic can be a little bit isolated at times. So Birmingham, I think, will look to play on the counter. I think they could thrive in that system, you know. They'll be looking to play fast throughout midfield. Dan Crowley, someone who can pick that final pass and look to throw the ball through that Fulham defence, which has looked a bit shaky at times. Scott Parker needs a win from this one, but you know what? Birmingham at home, I'm going to say we'll win this one. 2-1 Birmingham, FIFA saying 2-0 Fulham. Interesting game. Then we see Hull going up against West Brom. We were just speaking about Hull then, but what a performance last time. Beating Fulham away from home by 3-0. They are still one of the trickiest sides to predict, but I did not see that coming at the weekend. Jared Bowen scored an absolutely tremendous goal, but he's going to have to be on top form for this game against West Brom. Currently it's at top of the Championship, and they are there for a reason. Whenever I do watch West Brom, I would say they are probably the most complete side in the Championship. I think that all the summer additions they made into that squad have perfectly bedded in. I think there's a real balance about that side now. They've been playing some fantastic football throughout the season. At the back, I think they're looking really settled. Kyle Bartley has, you know, his performances this season compared to last season has been an absolute world apart. He's been an absolute rock at the back for them. Sam Johnson's been brilliant, and obviously going forward throughout midfield, they off a lot, but Hull at the moment, they have won their last 3 matches and are just continuing to prove people wrong. A win in this game could take them into the top 6, so West Brom are going to have to watch out for them. West Brom, though, they themselves are on a decent unbeaten run at the moment. I don't think there's going to be all too much in it. I'm going to say 2-2. If I was edging one way, I'd probably be edging towards West Brom's quality, but Hull at the moment, they seem to have something about them and they'll look to play on the counter-attack for this one. I'll say 2-2, FIFA saying 1-0 Hull. Next up, we then got Leeds going up against Blackburn. A lot of people may be thinking this will be just a formality for Leeds this weekend. They never make it that simple for themselves, do they? So Blackburn stand a fighting chance. Blackburn finally getting back to winning ways last weekend after a horrible run of form, turning things around late on against Sheff Wednesday. They'll look to take that confidence into this game, but Leeds, I thought, played really well last time out against QPR, and it has been some of Leeds' perhaps more underrated players who have really been catching my eye lately. The people like Stuart Dallas, who I did a video on yesterday, Jack Harrison, and especially Tyler Roberts, who was absolutely brilliant in the system that Leeds used last time out. I think that he really could be their answer to their goal-scoring problems at the moment. You know, when this Patrick Bamford goal drought is going to end, God knows, no one knows at the moment. But Leeds playing at home, as always, expect them to create a lot of chances, things like that. Blackburn will look to catch them out on a couple of counter-attacks, and there are still some areas of vulnerability, although Leeds have kept it very tight at the back so far this season. For prediction, I think I will back Leeds at Ellen Road. I'll say 2-0. FIFA's going to say 1-0. Something like that, I'd imagine. After that, we then got Millwall going up against Charlton. Charlton at the weekend, not their best performance, probably one of their sloppiest so far this season, actually, against North End. They just couldn't really seem to get going, making anything move going forward. They only had 1 shot on target for that game. They'll look to be a little bit more attack-heavy for this game against Millwall, and there is an opportunity to get at this Millwall side, although they themselves have looked decent at the Den lately, being unbeaten in their last 3 matches. Charlton, you really felt they lacked the absence of Johnny Williams, especially in that game against North End. That creative hub in midfield, you know, Conor Gallagher is brilliant, but a player like Johnny Williams really can be the difference. You know, Bond was looking really isolated for that game against Preston. They can't allow that to happen again in this one against Millwall. Millwall in their last game, not the best performance in the first half. They weren't really at Reading. They looked much better in the second half, but couldn't get anything from that game. Being back at the Den, though, you'd expect Millwall to look to take the game to Charlton. They'll be setting the precedent for the tempo of this game and how it's going to be played on their terms. And for a prediction, I think I am maybe just edging towards Millwall, with Charlton having Lyle Taylor, who's still going to be out, Johnny Williams out as well. I think I'm just edging Millwall. I'll say 1-0. FIFA's going to say 2-0 Charlton. Next up, we then got North End going up against Huddersfield. Now, something's got to give in this game. Huddersfield currently on the longest unbeaten run in the Championship. They've not lost in 7 matches. Going up against North End, who currently are on the longest unbeaten home run in the Championship. So something's going to have to give between these two sides. With Huddersfield, it's not as if they've been drawing matches away from home either. They've been really doing well on the road. They've won 2 of their last 3 against Brentford. I thought they managed that game superbly, playing on the counter-attack, and when you've got someone as lethal as Colin Grant going forward, you're always going to have a hope in the game. North End, though, I'm interested to see how we go about this game, because we do have some injuries coming into this one. I'm not sure when Josh Harrop's going to be back, and Ben Pearson is suspended after picking up 5 yellow cards. That's going to be a miss, and Daniel Johnson as well. I'm not sure if he will be back fit or not. So Preston are taking a few hits there, and I'd imagine the likes of Ryan Ledson would look to come in to replace Ben Pearson, and then maybe Paul Gallagher comes in and replaces Daniel Johnson, with Alan Brown playing a little bit further forward. With Alex Neil, we never really know. He likes to change it up week in, week out, but he's got a bit of a selection headache in there as to who he goes for. With Preston being so good at Deepdale, I think I am going to edge towards North End, but I can't underestimate Huddersfield. I'm going to say 2-1 Preston. FIFA's going to say 2-0 Huddersfield. That could be really interesting this weekend. QPR versus Middlesbrough up next. Now, QPR lately have gone off the boil a little bit. They were on a fantastic run, then their last 3 results, they've not quite been at that same level, but being back at Loftus Road against a struggling Middlesbrough side is a perfect opportunity for QPR to go ahead and do that. You know, losing against Leeds at Ellen Road, you know, there's not really much shame in that, but I'd expect QPR to have a lot more of the ball in this one, look to be a lot faster through transitions, making things happen going forward. Obviously, it's going to be Jordan Hugill having a crack at his former club from last season, and there's definitely goals to be had for QPR in this one, because Middlesbrough at the moment really are having a bit of a crisis with their goalkeepers. Dan Randolph's out injured, and now Ainsley Pearce is also a doubt for this weekend, so they're in a bit of a tricky situation, Middlesbrough, because they've got goalkeepers out injured, and moving forward up the pitch, they can't score goals to save their lives at the moment. So for a prediction, I think you've got to be edging towards QPR at this one. Jonathan Woodgate becoming under increasing pressure, you know, the longer that he doesn't manage to turn this around for. I'm not sure how long he can carry on saying that the league table's line with them still sat in the bottom 3. So for a prediction, I am going to back QPR. I'm going to say 2-0. And then we got Reading going up against Luton. The Mark Byrne revolution at Reading is just carrying on at the moment, and I'd be fancying them for this game as well, probably. Luton at the moment, I think in a lot of their games so far this season, they have been a little bit guilty of starting quite slowly and then growing into the game in the second half. They can't allow to do that for much longer, you know, because they leave themselves with such a mountain to climb, and Reading have been one of the sides lately, especially, who have been starting matches very fast. They were fast out of the blocks at Loftus Road against QPR, and especially last weekend against Millwall. They started that game fantastically, create a lot of chances, getting the ball around the opposition's box, and I've got the feeling that they'll look to do the same in this one as well. Lately, the player probably in form for Reading has been Sam Baldock. He's come out of the cold, really. I didn't think he'd had much of a future at Reading with some of the summer transfers they brought in, but lately he has been Mark Bowen's man. He's been on form, scored a fantastic goal last weekend, and they've got a lot of attacking options, this Reading squad, and I think that in defence now, with this new system they're using, they're looking a lot more assured there as well. And for Luton, I think they will make a game of it, but I've got a feeling they may shoot themselves in the foot again. So for a prediction, I will back Reading for a 2-1 home victory, with FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. Then next up, we've got Sheffield Wednesday going up against Swansea, 7th going up against 4th. This should be an interesting one. Wednesday lately, not been on the greatest run of form. They've not quite been scoring as many goals as they were earlier on in this season. I think a large reason for that, Stephen Fletcher lately has been looking quite isolated going forward. You know, whenever they are trying to start a counter-attack, sometimes Fletcher's left to do it all by himself. And going up against the Swansea side, this isn't going to be an easy game. So far this season, Swansea have got one of the best away records in the Championship. They've really picked their form back up lately ever since that win against Cardiff. They matched that with a fantastic away win at Wigan, which is quite a tough place to go to. Sam Surridge popping up with the last-minute winner in that game. Like Sheffield Wednesday have done with a lot of their opposition under Gary Monk so far this season, I don't think there'll be a lot in this game. I think they'll look to make it quite tense and tight. Their last game, a little bit of a disappointment, losing late on against Blackburn Rovers, but I'd fancy them to maybe bounce back in this one with a 1-1 draw. Don't think there'll be all too much in it between these two, with FIFA also agreeing with me for that one. Next up, we then got Wigan going up against Brentford. Both of these sides lost last weekend. Brentford were on a fantastic run of form before last weekend, before they were halted by Huddersfield, and I'd imagine that Wigan would look to play a similar game plan that Huddersfield looked to play to frustrate Brentford going forward, not allow them to get a lot of space in behind, and then look to hit them on the counter-attack. And Wigan do have a few players capable of doing that. You know, Gavin Massey on one wing and Lowe on another could provide to be some decent options, but they still really are finding it hard to score from open play. If Wigan are going to get something from this game, realistically, it's probably going to be a set piece, and it's probably going to be Che Dunkley getting on the end of it. But they have been good at that so far this season. On the whole, at DW, despite losing last time late on against Swansea, their record there has been good. And with Brentford, they do seem to be quite that momentum side at the moment, where they'll go on a bit of a winning run, bit of a losing run. We could read a bit into that. For this game, I think I might just back Wigan at the DW. I'll say 1-0. FIFA's going to agree with me. If Brentford are on form, they could rip it up, but at the moment, they're still a bit unsure. Then to finish things off, we got Cardiff going up against Bristol City. Cardiff last time, an absolute bonkers game against Birmingham. They beat them by 4-2, but I'm not really sure how much we can read into that game. You know, Cardiff had 2 penalties. Both sides had a man sent off, and it was all a bit hectic, really. Bristol City also had quite the hectic game last time out, a 2-2 draw away at Barnsley. Quite a disappointing one from their standpoint, being 2-0 up in that game to throw things away, and that really has been sort of their Achilles heel so far this season, allowing the opposition to have quite a few chances against them. They're always going to turn them into goals eventually, and Bristol City do currently find themselves with the worst defensive record in the top 6, so that's going to be something they're going to look to iron out slowly. They are slowly getting players back into the starting 11 who have been injured. That's going to be a big boost for them, and throughout the season, you know, casually getting players back in the squad is going to help pick them up. Cardiff, though, still unbeaten at home, not going to make it easy for them from set pieces. I do see them being quite the threat. You know, Barnsley caused them troubles from set pieces last time, and Cardiff, with the height they've got in there, really I think could do some damage. Bristol City, though, still a very good side going forward, and for a prediction, I'm going to say a score 2-2 draw, with FIFA saying it'll be 1-1. But guys, there you have it. There are my Championship score predictions for what I think is going to happen in this weekend's fixtures. So do you guys agree with me? Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. But apart from that, that will now wrap it up for today's video. So thank you so much for watching. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.